Brian here, setspaceriathlon.com. We are here to talk about Ironman Tulsa, and we're going to talk about the bike course. So you'll see in the background here, I've got Ironman Tulsa website pulled up, and if you go to courses, you go to the maps, and you can download the PDF of the bike course that is Ironman Tulsa. So at the time of this recording, we are in 2021, still dealing with the pandemic, and we did not get to race in 2020. Losing track of my years, but crossing our fingers, we're going to be back in there in 2021. But in the meantime, they have changed the course just a little bit. You'll see down here, there's a couple highway sections. They kind of had us on a side road a little bit, and I think either some construction or something. I made the video a long time ago. They kind of changed it to a better kind of course and actually took out some elevation, which is kind of nice. So this right here should be the most current up-to-date map that's on the website as of March of 2021. So what we're looking at is a point-to-point, one loop, if you want to call it that, 112-mile bike ride. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're out at Keystone Lake, you get the transition, and this is the bike course. Mostly you're heading up north and then coming back down south. So a couple things. There's parts of Tulsa and outlying areas that's pretty much barren. There's no foliage, there's no trees, there's nothing to block the wind, and it can get, at least from my experience, my time in Tulsa, I spent a lot of time kind of running the river trails in downtown Tulsa. When you run across there, you're getting a breeze that comes through that river area because they got trees and the stuff on sides, but it can get windy out there. So I say that to kind of warn you to get ready that you're going to be out here riding north and south, and depending on the day, you can have 20 and 25 mile per hour winds. So I'm just saying, be prepared, especially when you're going north to south. Typically you're going to have an east or west. Usually it's blowing east, so you're going to have a crosswind for parts of the ride, and you're going to have a headwind at certain parts because notice, I mean, you're doing some little easterly rise, some little west stuff, but nothing too bad. So crossing our fingers that when we're going north and south, you're just dealing with a crosswind and not a straight headwind, especially if the winds are pretty strong for the day. And we're in May, time of this video, March 2021. Here in Kansas City, where I live, we've already had some tornadoes come through. We've already had some storms. It is shaping up to be an interesting spring. So who knows what we're going to get on race day. So just be prepared for a windy day, possibly rain. Who knows? I say that to if you have race wheels on your bike, if they're deep rimmed wheels. Personally, I run 808s. I used to have a 1080 on the bike on the back, but I switched out of that. Or if you run a disc or anything like that, if there's crosswinds out there, especially 808s on the front for me, if there's 20 mile per hour crosswinds, it's going to be an interesting day out there. Now, I've done it before, and I'm okay. I'm comfortable dealing with crosswinds and stuff. When it gets to 30 or something like that, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I've done 70.3 Kansas, and we got some mean winds out here, and I think a couple times it got up to 25, 30 mile per hour wind gusts. It wasn't exactly pleasant, but got through, and I'm comfortable on that. But if you're not comfortable getting blown around the road in the aero position, then it might be wise to either bring, if you have the opportunity, to bring a different wheel set just in case. If it's really windy, so you have the opportunity maybe to switch out the front, or you plan on coming, if you want deep dish wheels, coming with 404s, or some other 303s or whatever. It gives you a little bit of aerodynamic advantage, but it's not going to catch a crosswind because there's several opportunities for a crosswind out here. So just be cognizant of that when you're setting up your bike. The other main thing is I do recommend a tri-bike. I mean, people want to talk about, you go down here to the elevation, and you can kind of see that. A total gain of 4,900 feet. Yeah, there's going to be gains, and there's going to be some climbs in here, but it's short and steep for the most part. I mean, there's going to be other sections where it's going to be flat, and you can stay in the aero position for extended periods of time. Even here, there's little bumpy sections, and in this climb too, but you're going to be able to probably spend at least 3/4 of the time in the aero position. So if you got an aero bike, bring it and be ready. You're going to have opportunities. So I tell a lot of people, make sure you're training the aero position to be in there in extended periods of time, but looking at the climbs, you're going to have plenty of opportunities to get up out of the aero bars and get up on the drops and kind of stretch out and stuff. So there's going to be opportunities. You're not going to be stuck in aero the entire time, but I think with the winds and with the elevation change and the profile of the course, being in the aero position, I think, is going to be very advantageous. And if at all possible, if you've got a tri bike and you can ride it in the aero position for extended periods of time, bring it. Plan to use it. I think that's going to be key for this bike race, or bike course for the race overall. That way you get to the second transition and you've got energy left. You may not exactly be faster, but you won't have to use as much power to get through the bike course if you've got a reduction in air drag, which could be 80 to 90% of what you're overcoming once you get to 16, 17, 18 miles an hour or something like that. So just be mindful if people are questioning, oh, should I bring a road bike or an aero bike? Bring an aero bike. If you got it, bring it. If you're thinking about getting one, I'd say go ahead and pull the trigger if you got the means and get set up and get ready to ride this in the aero position as much as possible. Now, when you're looking through the course, the other key points is to find out where the special needs bags is, and typically that's going to be halfway through, so probably around the 50-mile mark. They've got an aid station, so they probably will put the special needs bags somewhere near this aid station. Looking in this right now, I didn't see anything in the key, athlete flow water aid station, mile markers, finish line, start line, transition area. So they don't have anything marked, but it's a one loop course, point to point, so you're going to have one opportunity to get your special needs bag. So you need to figure out if you're going to use it or not. Either way, whatever you put in that bag, if you use it or if you don't use it, it gets thrown away. You will not get that special needs bag back, so don't put anything you can't live without in that bag. So I'm just warning you now. So overall, I think it's going to be an interesting course. I think it's going to be a little bit tough. I think we're all going to need to be prepared. And let's see if I can bring that up for you a little bit so you can see. There you go. So you can see the elevation profile. I think it's the first, you want to come out and be conservative, because these first few hills in this little section here, once you get to about 70 miles, it's going to be, I think, a little less taxing. But those first 70 miles, is going to make or break the rest of the day for you. It's going to make or break the rest of the ride and the run completely. Now the run is pretty flat, but I don't care how flat it is. If you come out there and you blow your wad in the first 30 miles trying to attack these hills, you're going to be spent. Unless you're out there biking 400 or 500 miles per week in this kind of elevation change, I think you're going to be pretty taxed. So make sure that you're out there conservative on the first 70 miles. I'm going to say that now, for conservative, because you're going to attack these hills, but make sure you're not getting overboard, you're not overreaching. Make sure you're focusing on hydration. Make sure you're focusing on nutrition. It can get hot and humid. It's probably going to be humid. You can count on that in Oklahoma, and especially in May. It could be hot. It can be 80 some degrees with 90% humidity, and that could be pretty miserable. So stay up on top of hydration. You may not it may not be super intense heat, but you're going to lose moisture through sweating and just through breathing. And make sure you're staying up on your electrolytes, your salt, all that good stuff. Make sure you're taking advantage of the aid stations, because I guarantee you, by the time you get through 70 miles, you're gonna expend a lot of energy and a lot of effort, and you need to make sure that you're in a good position once you get to the second transition to be able to get out there and have a good run. Overall, I think that's my main things. I think in the transition one, make sure you sunscreen, because like I said, there's not going to be much shelter out here on the bike course. There may be a few times you go through some maybe sheltered areas or something like that, but you're going to be out in the sun in May, and I can guarantee if you're not wearing sunscreen, you're going to get burnt. Personally, I use a full tri-suit with sleeves, so all I have to worry about really is my forearms, and I get my face and my neck, and the back of my neck. So make sure, race wheels, you can bring them, don't go too deep on the wheels. Aero helmet if you got it, TT bike if you got it. And just make sure that you're tuned up on that bike. Make sure your shifting is solid, because you're going to do a lot of shifting on these hills. You're going to be using the lower end, but once you get past 70 miles, you're going to be able to kind of find a groove, I think, for a little bit. And you got a few little spikes here and there, but overall, you should be able to be in the aero position and should be able to use the higher ends of your gears. Because, what goes up must come down, so there's going to be opportunities to kind of max out your gear. So I don't think you need any special gearing or anything for climbing necessarily. I think there's going to be, like I said, a few steep sections where you're going to be probably out of your seat, kind of climbing for a little bit, but it's short and steep. You're not going to be dragging out for miles and miles or something like that. It's not like a Ironman Lake Tahoe course. That was ridiculous. That was about 8,000 feet a gain. You're going to be nowhere near this. So I think you're going to probably like a minute or two, you're going to be climbing pretty hard, but then once you get to the top, you're going to be able to get back into your regular gears and not have a problem. I don't think that's a necessity to go out and do different gearing for your bike, anything that you normally would get out of. Like I said, if you know, here in Kansas City, we have similar terrain, so we have lots of hills and stuff to get elevation in. So if you live in a flat area, you need to go out and either find some hills or you need to do some hill work on the bike just to make sure that you're ready. Make sure that hill climbing, you can get through that first 70 miles, because that's going to be a lot of power application, of making sure that you don't spend your energy too soon, to make sure you're conservative enough, that you have enough energy. And once you get to T2, that you can complete your 26.2 mile run. Because the run's not a killer, I'll be upfront with that, but I think the bike is, the first 70 miles is where your day's going to be made. Once you get done with that swim, if you spend your energy wrong on that bike ride, you're going to pay for it, especially the last, you get to 70 miles, and if you've blown your wad and you're trying to get to 112 miles, those last, 52, they're going to suck. If you've not trained well, if you've not prepared yourself wisely, it's going to be very uncomfortable. So, and I do believe in there's... Well, it may interfere. I was going to say there is a half that they do out in Tulsa, but I believe it might be after this. So this would be a good warm-up for the half that they do that's independent of Ironman. But so if you got an opportunity you live near the area to go out and ride the course, I'd highly recommend it. Like I said, if you live in a flat area, you need to get in, either do some indoor trainer work on some hill work, some strength work, maybe even some functional strength work, some squats and that type of thing in the gym. To help build that strength up, because while you don't want to go after these hills, you're going to need enough muscular endurance to get over these hills and still have enough. This is going to be, I think, like I said, a very interesting, challenging bike course. So just be ready for it. With that, I think that pretty much covers everything I was going to talk about. So if you got any questions, put them in the videos. Email me at info@setthepacetriathlon.com. Go to setthepacetriathlon.com. Put them in the comments or anything like that. STPtry.com. You see the logo there in the video. So let me know if you got any questions. And with that, happy training out there, and we will see you on race day.